My name is Curtis Olofsson, and I am privileged to serve as the president of the Icelandic Communities Association. And we are working with the Icelandic National League of the United States and Icelandic Roots to bring you this broadcast today. Our broadcast will be in two different segments. The first section will be the three national anthems. Then we will hear greetings from Hulda Daníelsdóttir, president of INL Iceland and the Snorri Foundation. We will also hear from Diane Okonsky, the Icelandic National League of the United States president. Then we will hear from Guðmundur Stefánsson, the past Iceland ambassador to the United States and soon to be Consul General in Winnipeg. And finally, in section 1, we will hear from Bergdís Ellertsdóttir, the new ambassador from Iceland to the United States. We will begin with the Canadian National Anthem.
All Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 121st Annual Deuce of August Icelandic Celebration, coming to you from Mountain, North Dakota. Next, we will hear greetings from four dignitaries: Hulda Daníelsdóttir, President of INL Iceland and the Snorri Foundation, and from Diane Okonsky, President of the Icelandic National.
Hi, this is Sanna. I'm just going to carry on. Diane Okonsky, the Icelandic National League of the United States President. Guðmundur Árni Stefánsson, the past USA Ambassador and soon to be Consul General in Winnipeg. And then last is Bergdís Ellertsdóttir, the new ambassador from Iceland to the USA. And hopefully Curtis will be back after they're done.
Dear friends, I'm honored to bring greetings on behalf of the Icelandic National League of Iceland, Þjóðræknisfélag Íslendinga, to the Deuce of August Icelandic celebration. The INL of Iceland has always been about strengthening relations and collaboration between itself and organizations and events in North America that celebrate Icelandic heritage. Celebrating tradition is important, and I'm truly impressed that you have decided to go ahead with the Heritage Program via online webinar instead of canceling it. Your own Káinn Julius wrote this about the sunshine in Dakota. Þegar vetur víkur frá og veðrið fer að hlýna, þá fögur sjón að sjá, sólina okkar skína. And I sure felt the sunshine last year when I was fortunate enough to take part in the Deuce of August celebration. The blazing sun beamed down on us hot and white as we rode in an amazing vehicle through town, all the while waving to people who had lined the streets. What a fantastic memory that is. No one experiencing that will ever forget it, nor the amazing warmth and hospitality that the Icelandic community in mountain and surrounding areas generously shows its guests. And I want to thank you for that cherished memory and wish you yet another successful Deuce of August. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Diane Okonsky, President of the Icelandic National League of the United States, and I bring you greetings from the INLUS. Congratulations to Mountain and the Icelandic Communities Association on the 121st Deuce of August. Well, what a change from last year when we could all be together at the community center. This year, the INLUS is happy to provide the online connection that allows us to celebrate our heritage while staying safe for today's program. When we first met last year, the INLUS was 6 weeks old. In that year, we have made some impressive progress for an all-volunteer organization. We have grown from 0 to nearly 200 members across 37 states, Iceland, and Canada. This includes 168 individual and family members, 12 Icelandic clubs and organizations, and 15 businesses. The ICA and the Fargo-Moorhead Icelandic Club were early founding members, as were several local businesses, and we thank you for your support. We look forward to a long and strong relationship with you. The monies that we collect in membership dues and donations are redistributed throughout the Icelandic and Nordic community to help support Icelandic culture and education. We offer scholarships to US-based Snorri participants, to someone studying Icelandic as a secondary language, and to someone attending Icelandic camp in Gimli or elsewhere. We also have grants available to local groups to help support their Icelandic projects. The INLUS strives to be a point of connection for Icelanders, for those of Icelandic descent, and for those interested in Iceland. We have presented webinars and interviews with authors and musicians, government officials, and others. This last fall, we offered an Icelandic language class that was very well received, and we will offer another one this October. As the pandemic took hold, the Icelandic TV and movies discussion group was formed, and the INLUS opened up its meeting room for online one-hour chat sessions. Our blogs, social media, and newsletters have shared information across our membership and beyond. Needless to say, none of this would be available or possible without our wonderful staff of volunteers. So you can see that the INLUS has had a busy first year. We provide an important connection for our one member in Montana and our one member in Oklahoma, as well as to larger groups, to connect to their heritage and to grow their interest in Iceland. If you are already a member of the INLUS as an individual or family member or business member, thank you. If not, I invite you and your friends to become members and help the INLUS grow. Again, congratulations to the Deuce on persevering during this very unique time. Thank you.
Dear friends in the mountain in North Dakota and all over US, Western Icelanders, happy Deuce, and I hope you're enjoying your celebration this year, although the COVID-19 virus is affecting things in a way. But we will prevail, we will win over the virus, and things will go back to normal. As you know, I'm coming back, that's the right wording, to Canada and the US. I remember my earlier encounters with you in the celebration in Mountain back in 2011 to 2014. Now I'm being posted as the new General Consul in Winnipeg, but of course I'll try to help out on the southern part of the borders in the US with all my good friends, and hopefully I'll be getting to know many more of you when that time goes. I sincerely hope that you're doing well. I'm taping this in Hafnarfjörður, my hometown in Iceland, and as I said, I'll be coming to the Western Icelandic neighborhoods in the US and Canada on the 18th of August, and looking forward to it. Meanwhile, all the best to all of you. Keep safe and do well. Bye-bye.
Greetings to you all from the Westfjords and Ísafjörður, the town where I am right now. I bring you all greetings also from Foreign Minister Thordarson, who wanted me to tell you how grateful he is to the people of Mountain and North Dakota for preserving their Icelandic heritage and informing people in the area and in the US of Iceland and Icelandic culture. We at the Embassy in Washington are also working very hard to enhance Iceland and US relations. And we do this through enhancing trade, security and defense relations, but importantly also through cultural relations. And we very much appreciate all your efforts, both in Mountain, in North Dakota, and all over the US, for helping us spreading the word about Iceland and Icelandic culture. I'm very sorry that I could not be with you this year, but we are all facing this world pandemic. But I hope that next year I will not be here in Ísafjörður, but celebrating with all of you. I hope you will have great celebrations this year, despite the fact that you are not meeting face to face. But we all need to think outside the box this year. Next year, we will meet. Thank you.
And good afternoon again, once again, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the technical difficulties we are having from our broadcast location here. We will try to resolve those as we go along, so please bear with us if we fade out again. The second half of our program will be a presentation by various community members. Each of the 11 presenters has a special connection to their area. You will hear the passion and dedication in their voices. Because of them and others in our community, our Icelandic story will continue. The first Icelanders immigrated to Utah in 1855 and in 1863 to Brazil. Those who came to Dakota immigrated first to Wisconsin in 1870, and in the years thereafter, the Icelanders immigrated to Canada and the USA. The first Icelanders came to North Dakota on the waves of hardship. Everyone who left Iceland had their own story, but many left because their future in their homeland was grim. Iceland had brutal climate conditions with ice that blocked the fjords. Intermittent volcanoes destroyed the farms, all causing many animals and people to die. In addition, there were many financial and societal problems caused by trade monopolization from Denmark and overpopulation of the habitable areas. Iceland had been under Danish rule for hundreds of years. People wanted their freedom. King Kristján IV sent a decree that the Icelandic Parliament should be called into session, and on Sunday, August 2nd, all churches in the land should hold a service because he was bringing to Iceland a new constitution. Jón Sigurdsson was a strong and tireless leader who helped pave the way for independence. His birthday, June 17th, was chosen as the National Independence Day when Iceland became a republic in 1944. The Icelandic immigrants in Wisconsin knew about this celebration in Iceland and decided to also hold a celebration this same day. Ever since, in North America, August the 2nd is known as the Day of the Icelanders. August the Deuce, or the 2nd of August celebration, began in 1899. The local community tried to switch the date of the annual celebration to June 17th, but it was not continued. The Icelanders first came to Dakota in 1878. The land was grabbed up quickly. 50 Icelandic families came to Pembina County by the fall of 1879. They named their settlements and townships after places in Iceland, and they worked hard to survive in America. Most of the settlers arrived here with very limited financial resources. Almost all of the homestead land was taken by 1886. Some from the settlement began to move to near Upham, north of Minot, and to Roseau County in Minnesota. When the Great Northern Railway was completed in 1887, we had the Dakota boom with rapid population growth. North Dakota became a state in 1889. From 1900 to 1910, many Icelanders left Pembina County for unsettled areas in the Canadian provinces of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta.
Góðan daginn. First, a little introduction. I am Loretta Thorfinson Bernhoft, a lifelong resident of Mountain and member of the Beaker Lutheran Church, the oldest Icelandic church in America. I was baptized, confirmed, and married in this beautiful church, which was founded by Reverend Sarah Paul Thorlickson, an Icelander. My children and grandchildren were also baptized here, so this church is very near and dear to my heart. And now a little history of the church. The first settlers came to the mountain area in 1878 and named their settlement Vik. During their first year in the Dakota Territory, the Icelanders suffered from poverty and the harsh winter. They held a meeting in November 1880 to discuss building a church. The Reverend Thorlickson owned land in Beaker, which was later called Mountain, some of which he donated to the Beaker congregation, where they were to establish a cemetery and build a church. Sarah Paul had served in Wisconsin and Gimli, or New Iceland, before coming to Dakota Territory. He was instrumental in securing donations for the young community from the Norwegian Synod and generous Norwegians in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Unfortunately, Sarah Paul succumbed to tuberculosis in 1882 and did not witness the completion of the building we know today as the Beaker Church. But before he passed, he encouraged his congregation to call his cousin, Reverend Hans Thorgrimsson, to come and serve them. Pastor Thorgrimsson did come to Dakota and took over the duties as pastor. He knew that his countrymen would not feel as if they had put down roots in the new country until they had built a church. 12 men of the newly formed congregation mortgaged their farms, a total of 1,920 acres, to secure the $1,200 with which to build the church. It was the first church built by Icelanders in North America in 1884. The sturdy structure had no altar, pulpit, pews, or bell tower in the beginning. Those would come later as a result of the work and donation of the Ladies' Aid, which Reverend Thorgrimsson helped to establish. The original site of the church was south of the current setting, where a large stone is located, surrounded by graves. In 1947, men of the congregation dug a basement by hand and moved the church to its current location. It is sitting on land donated by Sylvia Johnson, or Solveig Kristjánsdóttir, in memory of her mother, but was probably part of the original 160 acres owned by Sarah Paul and his family. Sylvia and her mother emigrated from Iceland in 1888, and Sylvia became the first woman superintendent of schools, the first woman and only woman of Icelandic descent to accomplish this in her lifetime. There's a small stone marker which commemorated when the church was moved to the new foundation. And now a few tidbits about this historic church. It's currently part of the Pemmon Hills congregation, which includes Garter and Beetling. The first worship services were conducted entirely in Icelandic, and we attempt to sing the first verse of Silent Night each Christmas Eve in Icelandic, and at that time the choir becomes very small. Pastor Paul is buried in the cemetery just south of this church, along with 128 known burials, of which only 72 are marked, and 89 people were known to be born in Iceland. There are pictures in the basement of the church which depict the early structure, and you'll also find some original altar items as well. Beaker was placed on the National Register of Historical Places in 2013. We have visitors annually from all over the world who sign our guest books, and tour groups from Iceland who are eager to learn more about the early congregation. And I'm always proud to share this story. Check us out on Beaker Lutheran Church and Facebook. And a heartfelt thanks to all who so generously donate and help us maintain and preserve this beautiful place of worship.
Hi, I'm Shirley Alderson. All my great-grandparents came from Iceland, so I'm a 100%er. A great-grandfather on mother's side was Johannes Lackner, Dr. Joe Jonasson, a revered caregiver 100 years ago in the Spanish flu pandemic. Great-grandfather Algerson homesteaded on the north edge of Garter Township in 1881. His son, my grandfather, GB, built the big yellow house on the homestead and went on to build the original K.N. Julius monument, the Viking ship parade float, the Garter store, and many houses and barns in Garter Township. The first two settlers in Garter Township came in the fall of 1879. The community, located along a branch of the Park River, was originally named Park. The name changed to Garter when a post office was established in 1881. The Viker Church and Mountain is the oldest church building, but the first congregation in North Dakota Icelandic Communities was formed in Garter in November 1880. The Garter Pioneer Lutheran Church was erected in 1888, along with its adjacent cemetery. The Garter Luther's Church in town was built in 1911. Both churches and cemetery are still in use today, cared for in large part by the Garter Ladies' Aid, which was formed in 1885 and has raised funds for the maintenance of the churches and for church activities for 135 years. The first newspaper in the Icelandic Communities was hand-printed by rural Garter resident Stefán G. Stefánsson, spelled with a PH, who was a poet known in the community but is very revered in Iceland, even to this day. Tourists from Iceland visit the Stefánsson homestead site west of town. Another Stefánsson, spelled with an F, the famous Arctic explorer Vilhjálmur Stefánsson, hailed from the mountain area but also participated in community events at Garter. The Garter School was organized in 1882. The structure
All right, it seems like I lost them again. This is Sana. I will just keep reading from Shirley's notes until she comes back. The Garter School was organized in 1882. The school bell and memorial plaque are in place just north of the town church.
So now, am I back?
You're back. Go ahead.
Okay. The grassy area on the east end of Main Street, where the Garter School once stood, is now a 9-hole disc golf course. Across the street in the old Garter store building is the 10th hole Garter Country Club and Bar, open most evenings. A campground is nestled along the river on the north edge of town. The Garter Grizzlies basketball team played in the Garter Township Hall through the 1960s. It was also the home of the Garter Community Club through the 1980s. The hall, built in the late 1890s, fell into disrepair over the years, and faced with destruction or reconstruction, the residents of the Garter area showed the initiative and effort of the early homesteaders in restoring the Garter Township Hall, hosting the first event in that beautiful space in May 2019. The adjacent Eldhús, the Icelandic word for kitchen, is complete in 2020 except for the exterior siding. The Eldhús has a complete catering kitchen, handicapped accessible restrooms, a wide corridor to the main building, the township office, and a small gathering area. One can envision a Garter Community Club program in the future. These are only tidbits of the significant history of this little Icelandic community. An important note is that the current settlers are treasuring the past and embracing the future of this little community. Garter is becoming great again.
Góðan daginn, Frankur. My name is Linda Susan Goodman Jacobson, and I go by Sue. My sister Irene wrote a poem called Our Beloved Fjalla Church that explains why Fjalla is so important to us. Out on the windswept prairie stands a symbol of our love for all who are laid to rest there, with whose hearts we are all entwined. I grew up on our family farm just a couple miles away, next door to my grandparents' homestead. Our family was actively involved in the community, both musically and otherwise. I sang a lot of solos at Fjalla and Icelandic, and in my adult life, proudly sang the Icelandic National Anthem and modeled this traditional costume at the Norse Kustfest for 3 decades. Our daughter Leah now models the costume, and she volunteers for the INLUS as a graphic designer for brochures and newsletters. Now I will present a brief history of the Fjälla community located on the Pembina Escarpment in Cavalier County. It is about 6.5 miles northwest of Mountain. Thank you to Janet Muldoon for writing this. Like other Icelandic communities in North America, the Fjälla community consisted of immigrant farm families, most of whom arrived in the early 1880s. The Fjälla area had about 40 households of Icelanders, with the majority of them immigrating from eastern Iceland and the highlands of that region. This area was often referred to by the immigrants as the Hérað, all in northern and southern Múlasýsla. My sisters and I have all traveled to Iceland to visit relatives in these areas. The Icelandic families at Fjälla, the word meaning mountain, established a Lutheran Christian congregation in 1886. They first met in their homes where they established a Sunday school and Ladies' Aid. The land for the church and cemetery was donated by Ólafur and Guðrún Einarsson. When the Fjälla church was completed in 1894, it was called the Íslandska Lutherska Kirkja á Pembina Fjallanum. The first pastor was Séra Fredrik Bergman. Gunnlaugur Jónsson Ásmann was the first elected president. The church was dedicated in 1902. The Icelanders at Fjälla built 2 country schools, a community hall, and established a traveling library. The Fjälla community's collection of books were donated to the University of North Dakota and are archived there. The Fjälla Church and Cemetery are maintained by a board of directors with Charlotte Hardy as president. An endowment and generous supporters continue to preserve the church and cemetery. A monument at Fjälla has an inscription in Icelandic and in English in these words. This monument is dedicated to the Icelandic pioneers, the first of whom came from their native land to build homes in this community in the 1880s. The flags on this slide honor the 57 immigrants buried in the Fjälla Cemetery. In 1967, the congregation size had diminished and became inactive. Most members joined the Milton Lutheran Church. A single yearly service is held at Fjälla in early August each year. And last year, we celebrated Fjalla's 125th year. Bless.
Hello, my name is Susan Sigurdsson Powers. I've always been Icelandic. Growing up in the mountain community, I really didn't know there was any other option. I was raised on a farm 3 miles south of Mountain that was homesteaded by my great-grandparents, Sigurður and Kristin Thorsteinsdóttir Kroksson, who immigrated here from northern Iceland. I was baptized at the Thingville Lutheran Church, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. In 1889, the Icelandic immigrants in the Eyford region of Thingville Township, Pembina County, in the new state of North Dakota, organized the Thingville Lutheran Church as a religious society. After meeting in homes for a time, funds were raised to build a church. The original church was a 26 by 40-foot building with a 52-foot bell tower. The construction cost was about $2,500. The church was dedicated on August 9th, 1893. The first services were conducted by Séra Friðrik J. Bergman for $6 per sermon, and he was paid for the year on the 1st of December. Services were conducted in Icelandic until sometime in the 1940s. Sadly, in June 2003, the Thingville Church was destroyed by accidental fire, which started during restoration work being done to preserve the building. The church was nearly 110 years old at the time of the fire. Remaining members of the congregations wanted a way to remember the church and the people who founded it. The foundation of the old church was planted with prairie grasses and flowers to represent the unbroken prairie grasslands that the settlers found when they arrived in North Dakota. Interpretive panels that tell the story of the church, community, and cemetery were installed at the church site. In August 2007, a bronze Christus statue, patterned after the Christus statue that stood on the altar of the church originally, was dedicated at a ceremony attended by the Icelandic Prime Minister Geir Haarde. The Thingville Cemetery lies to the east of the original church and has about 325 graves, 75 of them for pioneers who immigrated from Iceland. Near the gate of the cemetery is the headstone for K.N. Julius. Christian Niels Jonsson Julius, born 1859, died 1936, was a unique satirical poet and humorist. He was born in Akureyri, Iceland. K.N., or Cowan as he was known at the time, labored for most of his adult life in the Thingville community. Many of the early graves in the cemetery had been dug by him, and he was the last grave digger in the Thingville community. To the north of the old church foundation, there's a large monument to Cowan that was built in the 1930s by local farmer Guðmundur B. Algerson. The monument includes a bronze relief of Cowan, and the stones in the monument came from Icelandic settlements in the United States. It was dedicated that year during the 100th Deuce celebration in a ceremony attended by Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, President of Iceland.
Kvöldið. My name is Kathy Sigurdsson Thorlaksson. I was baptized and attended Thingville Lutheran as a child with my family. I went to Sunday school and was confirmed at Beaker Lutheran Church, and later lived near Bíldudalur and attended church there with my family. All of the beautiful churches here have a special place in my heart, but being part of the Bíldudalur church community and serving on the board to help make decisions that would preserve it and celebrate its history has been important to me. Attending a service there and seeing the pews filled and people visiting and hearing their memories is a very special time. The Bíldudalur Lutheran Church of rural Akron, North Dakota was built in 1888 and was named for an early Icelandic bishop, Jón Vídalín. Weekly services were held there until the latter part of the 20th century. Since then, services are held in the summer and at Christmas. Summer services include a coffee time for visiting with old friends. At Christmas, Heimssymbol is sung by candlelight to end the service, and children are given apples and candy to follow a tradition done for years at Bíldudalur. Weddings and memorial services can also be held at the church, and it is open for visitors by arrangement. The Bíldudalur Cemetery Association maintains both the church and the cemetery. Recent improvements were financed in part by a grant from Partners for Sacred Places and the Nordic Churches Project, and by donations. Those improvements include new reproduction windows, a handicapped accessible ramp, painting, carpet, and work on stones in the cemetery. A memorial stone was installed this past year, listing those Icelandic pioneers buried outside the cemetery borders and not recognized with a stone. Over 120 Icelandic pioneers are buried at the Bíldudalur Cemetery. Further work will continue as funds are available. A Facebook page, Bíldudalur Icelandic Lutheran Church, is available for updates or to answer questions. The Pembina County Historical Museum, located across from Icelandic State Park on Highway 5, provides a look at area history and focuses on agriculture and life in an agricultural community. It maintains a collection of restored vehicles and machinery. The museum contains genealogy resources and a section dedicated to Icelandic books and history of the Icelandic settlements in Pembina County. Featured at the museum grounds are 11 buildings to tour, including the historic St. Anthony's Church, an 1882 homestead, a 1930s barn, blacksmith shop, granary, engine building, the restored Great Northern Depot, and 3 buildings of restored farm equipment and much more. The museum grounds are also the site of the Pembina County Veterans Memorial. The statue stands 6 feet tall of 2 soldiers. Almost 600 pavers have been placed on the grounds to honor Pembina County men and women who have served their country.
Hello, I am Jan Abrahamson. I grew up in Cavalier and my parents are Karen Hillman Abrahamson from Mountain and Edmund Abrahamson from Accra. My heritage is 100% Icelandic. This fun fact helped me procure 4 years of seasonal work at Icelandic State Park as a naturalist and ranger. I was their token Icelander. And I have participated in the Deuce celebration every year for over 20 years and live to tell about it. Starting about 6 miles west of Cavalier, along Highway 5, you will find Icelandic State Park. In the surrounding area of Icelandic State Park are the communities of Accra, Holston, and Svold, which are a hop, skip, and a jump from each other. At Svold, you will find the Peters Church, which was built in 1897 and rebuilt in 1949. There's a memorial stone to the Icelandic settlement there. There are 2 cemeteries here, the old pioneer Peters and the newer Peters Cemetery. Every fall, there is a hunter's breakfast held at the Svold Hall. The Svold community is dedicated to keeping the story of the area alive. My father, Edmund Abrahamson, was raised in Accra with his 3 brothers and 4 sisters. I have great memories of visiting the Accra General Store as a kid and playing with my cousins at Amma Abrahamson's house and spending hours exploring the outdoors. The Accra Hall was a center of the community for dances, plays, and other events. It was built by the local chapter of the Modern Woodmen of America in 1901. In 1987, Abrahamson brothers donated the Accra Hall to Icelandic State Park to preserve a part of the pioneer culture of this area. It was moved to Icelandic State Park in 1993. The Accra Hall is used for special events such as Pioneer Heritage Days and Saturday night at the Hall music performances and other events. 4 miles west of Icelandic State Park along Highway 5, you will find Holston. The Holston Church was built in 1897 on land donated by Johann Peter Holston. To preserve this beautiful church, it was moved to Icelandic State Park in 1994, and several fundraising events and a great amount of effort has gone into restoring the church and making it a focal point of the pioneer story at the park. The Anvari Cemetery is just north of the junction of Highway 32 and Highway 5 on the way to Mountain from Holston. Although there is no church there, this peaceful and serene cemetery is a gem to visit. The Icelandic State Park and the Northeast North Dakota Heritage Center is a popular destination. The Icelandic State Park was built on land donated in 1963 by G.B. Gunnlaugsson. Gunnlaugsson moved to the area as a young boy with his parents when they emigrated from Iceland in 1876, first to Canada and then to North Dakota. Gunnlaugsson became a well-known engineer with the Case Manufacturing Company. He never forgot his North Dakota upbringing and felt very strongly about preserving the natural beauty of the area, as well as telling the pioneer story. The park today consists of a birding and nature trails, 144 campsites, Lake Renwick, an interpretive center, the Gunnlaugsson Homestead, and a gathering of pioneer buildings, including the Accra Hall, the Holston Church, a log cabin, and a one-room schoolhouse. I am very grateful to share information about the area where I was raised. I'm very passionate about my 100% Icelandic heritage. From learning Icelandic card games, poems, and children's songs when I was young, to mastering the production of Kleiner, Vinaterta, Bliss, and Pannukakar, I consider myself a work in progress. My brothers and sisters and extended family are sucked into this Icelandic vortex. My family has been involved in preparing Icelandic treats for the Deuce for nearly 20 years. And as all great ideas start, we could do this, is where we is spelled M-O-M. My mother Karen has supervised and been quality control and translator for our family's efforts in the Aqua Snack Shack each year at the Deuce of August. I plan to continue to learn and promote Icelandic heritage, whether it is preparing the unique foods of our ancestors, collecting and reading Icelandic authors, or wearing fun t-shirts proclaiming how great Icelanders are. I'm always ready to support and promote our culture. I challenge you to do the same.
I'm Sandy Mathiasen Wright, Mathiasen in the Icelandic, and I am a relatively new resident of Mountain, but more about that later. Welcome to Mountain, an Icelandic community, says the sign that greets the visitor who approaches our city on the hill from the north or from the south. I have often thought there should be another line on that sign that says, the little city that can. Founded by Icelandic settlers, Mountain quickly grew to be a prominent little city with a bank, stores, a railroad, and much more. Those enterprises were not able to survive, as happens in many small cities. But what has survived is the can-do spirit of those early settlers. When you enter Mountain from the south, the first thing you see is the Borg Pioneer Memorial Home. Borg is a beautifully maintained and exceptionally well-run basic care facility that has been the pride of the community. It was built in response to a need in the Icelandic community for a place to care for our elders when they were no longer able to stay in their homes. The idea was planted in 1944 by Dr. B.J. Branson, a Winnipeg physician and philanthropist, a native of Gardner, North Dakota. The 7 Icelandic churches in the surrounding area joined together to make this dream a reality. The can-do spirit prevailed, and Borg opened its doors in 1949. As you travel past Borg and continue west, you come to the beautiful Mountain Cemetery. The entrance is a tree-lined lane that gently whispers that you are approaching a place of quiet and solitude. The Icelandic names are all around: Thorfinnsson, Guðmundsson, Halldórsson, Reykjavík, and the list goes on. As you wander in this lush tree-filled space, you feel surrounded by the stories of the pioneers and their families. Another can-do opportunity came in 2003, when plans were launched for a community gathering place and expanded cafe. Funding for this $1.6 million venture came from donations and grants, including a special gift from the government of Iceland. The center opened in 2011 and includes an expanded Mountain Chalet Cafe, serving the best hamburger and fries in the region, space for the fire department and quick response, a large banquet area, and leasable office space. Our community center has become the heart of this community. As pleased as I am to be telling the story of Mountain, being asked to do this seemed an unusual request. You see, my husband and I are new residents, having only moved here a year ago. I am a North Dakota Icelander, although I didn't grow up in this area. My great-grandparents settled mainly in the Gardner area, and one here in Mountain, and yes, I am proudly another 100%er. My husband was born and raised in Scotland. How did we end up here? My parents wanted to come back home when they retired from teaching. They found a charming old house on the main street in Mountain that quickly became a warm family home. My mother used to joke with us that maybe we would retire to Mountain too. That joke became a reality when we retired from our jobs in Salt Lake City a year ago and moved back to the old Main Street house in Mountain. We are home, and now are living life in the vast lane, just like the title of the iconic photo by Wayne Goodmanson. When you leave Mountain, be sure to look at the sign at the bottom of the hill that tells you, Takk fyrir komunu. That's thanks for coming. We hope you will come often and enjoy the hospitality of this little community that can.
Hi, everybody. This is Sana. I was born and raised in the Icelandic Settlement. They need to mute their microphone. Can you mute your microphone? Okay, they have us. I was born and raised in the Icelandic settlement area called Eyfirð, halfway between Mountain and Garter. I am involved locally, nationally, and internationally with many projects, people, and organizations. It is so wonderful and fun. I encourage you to find an organization or project to help preserve our Icelandic heritage. We've heard from all these friends today talking about their areas, and that's just here in Northeast North Dakota. We also have Icelandic history in Pembina, Grafton, and in Western North Dakota at the Mouse River, Melancton, Upham Settlement, the FM Icelandic Club, Scandinavian Host Fest, and the Hjemkomst Festival, and there's so many others. Nationally, there are endless opportunities such as the INLUS, a new sister organization to the INLs in Canada and Iceland. Internationally, we have the Icelandic Online Club, Lögberg Heimskringla, and the 4 Snorri programs, including Snorri Deaf, a favorite of mine. Learning about our ancestors and understanding their lives is so important. I began working on genealogy at a young age and was fascinated by the journey from Iceland, homestead papers, old photos, letters, and more. And then a place for this passion and friends to share it with came to be: Icelandic Roots. Icelandic Roots runs the Genealogy Center each Deuce of August weekend. In 2003, George Freeman and the ICA decided to hold a genealogy center. I brought my laptop and some resources and went to work just as a helper that first year. It was glorious. George, Halfdan Helgason, and I connected many families in North America and Iceland. Soon, the project was called Cousins Across the Ocean, Findu frændur og frænkur í Vesturheimi. We helped many people all through the years. This is our 18th year at the Deuce, but this time, virtual. Sadly, George passed away this past spring. He and Russ from our team are so greatly missed. Icelandic Roots is in cooperation with both immigration centers in Iceland, Valgeir and Gunnar Hafsós and Kathy Josephson in Vapnafjörður. Kathy is also one of our volunteer genealogists, and this weekend has her video, The Journey West, Sails, Rails, Rivers, and Trails, available, so look for that link. Our team is growing and growing. It includes historians, genealogists, photographers, writers, translators, tour guides, media experts, cartographers, IT gurus, and social media volunteers. With this wonderful team, we have built an amazing resource with so much information: immigration, special charts, famous ancestors, interactive maps, and there is just so much more. The IR team and the diverse and growing database will celebrate 7 years in November. I'm so glad to have known that I was an Icelander, and I've grown up here with the Deuce. It is an honor to be able to give back to this community and to preserve this fragile heritage and culture for the future generations. Of course, a special thanks to my husband, Jeff, who supports this passion, some call it craziness, for Iceland. You know, life is really amazing. You never know what will happen, but there is one thing that I do know. Alone, we could do so little. Together, we can do so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dennis Beliski. As you all know, Beliski is not an Icelandic name. My ancestors were early settlers to this area, and being 1/4 Icelandic, I grew up in the Mountain and Hensel communities and live here today. I hope you're enjoying this year's August the Deuce celebration. Many are saying that it's too bad that it's so different, but is it really? We're all here with good friends, enjoying good times at one of the first public events to be held in our region for months, when so many others were canceled entirely. Interestingly enough, I'm here to discuss one of the last public events held in our area before the COVID-19 scare, and that was Þorrablót. It was a wonderful evening on this past February 22nd. Well, here are some things you need to know about Þorrablót. I want everyone to read that sign aloud. If you said Þorrablót, you need to come to the next Þorrablót. If you say this at the door, you'll be let in, and without a doubt, this will be your first expression of joy. From that point on, you will see lots of your friends in various states of dress, but so far, everyone has remained decent. So far, anyway. You'll be wowed by all sorts of traditional treats and will want to say, "Skål." You will also find some not so traditional treats. Next comes this. You all know what that is, right? Well, of course, that's a sheep's head. But when you see it at Þorrablót, rather, it will look like this and could end up on your plate. You'll also find pickled ram's testicles, more commonly known as sheep balls. In case you ever wondered which particular sheep was willing to give up his manhood for this feast, here are a couple of thoughts. Probably not this guy on the left. He looks like he's moving on. But maybe this little guy on the right. He looks like the back sheep of the family. You'll enjoy fermented shark, brennivin, which is a tasty liquor that would rival any kind of schnapps any time of the year, and many other fine treats in addition to a good meal of codfish, potatoes, chicken, and red cabbage. Yes, red cabbage, the staple food of all good Europeans. I think red cabbage should be a mandatory food. There would be far less riots if red cabbage intake increased among young people. Lines at restrooms would grow greatly, but imagine the peaceful nature of our country if everyone ate red cabbage often. Finally, it's time for dessert. No bad surprises here. Vínatarta, pannekuchen, kleiner, spice cookies, all good stuff like your Amma used to make. The first 3 ICA Þorrablóts were held at Sanna and Jeff Fursnell's home with 15 to 35 people in attendance. In 2014, it was decided that Þorrablót would be held at the new community center, where it has been home to sold-out crowds ever since. Thank you to many fine volunteers. Þorrablót continues to be a huge success and gives us all what is intended to do so many centuries ago: provide a midwinter feast and get-together for friends and neighbors nearing the end of a long, miserable winter. Here's a slide of me, which wasn't necessary, but Sanna included it and I agreed to leave it on because in this particular picture, I look so young and handsome. At the end of each Þorrablót evening, we hold an auction to raise funds for the ICA and the Þorrablót. The bidding is aggressive, and there are always many good supporters in the room. Some will say 5, 10, 15, 20. There, everybody get 5. Who bid 25? Then all of a sudden sold. Hungry cat, $200. In closing, I want to add that when I left the house, my wife said, "Good luck with your presentation. You might now find out who your real friends are." I said, "What do you mean by that?" She said, "Everyone is watching on the computer, so for once you won't be able to tell who's really laughing at your silly jokes and who isn't." Folks, don't forget to mark your February calendar for Þorrablót. Enjoy this weekend and the days to come. Let's pray for a speedy recovery for our neighborhood, our country, and the world. God bless you all. God bless America, and God bless Iceland. Skål.
Hi friends, my name is Dory Heck. I'm originally of the Stefánsson family, but have made my life a little easier by marrying into the name Heck. It is a privilege to me to help carry on both a tradition and excitement each year with our celebration of August the Deuce. The Deuce has been with us for as long as any of us can remember, and it is so special to have this unique experience, one that brings us together as an Icelandic community of our own for the past 121 years. In its very early years, August the Deuce was celebrated humbly, an afternoon pie social, a baseball game, and a few speeches. Today, the Deuce is celebrated in a big way. For 3 days, we welcome thousands of people into our tiny town to enjoy the festivities. It is an event attended by international dignitaries and tourists alike to see how we pay homage to our ancestors. We still carry on parts of the Deuce celebration that are iconic and steadfast: the Saturday morning parade, the street dance, and a heritage program. One of our stars of the weekend is an extensive Icelandic goodies stand, a vendor that rivals any Amma's kitchen, where you can get heritage treats like Wienerterta, kleiners, and black pepper cookies. And we still rock out with a lively street dance or two, and we've capped the weekend with an all-day event of the North Dakota State Tractor Pull on Sunday. Many of us close out the weekend with a live and local music at Byron's Bar, and I'm sure a few seasoned locals will mention that Sunday just might be the best day of the Deuce. Now, we've given a modern touch to a few things like expanded campground and new on-trend souvenirs, and even an online store so you can get your Deuce of August merchandise year-round. And we try hard to bring in new attractions to keep everyone excited about what they'll find at the Deuce. Our newest additions are Amma's Garden, storytelling for children in both English and Icelandic, a live Viking warrior and encampment demonstration, and we continue to invite new and enticing food trucks to keep everyone happy and full. Now, Mountain is a town that defies the stereotype of small towns, with actually a very healthy number of young families. Recently, a group of local mothers in Mountain worked to lead the community in fundraising for a new play park for all to enjoy. We've given it the Icelandic name, the Bornum Park, or the Children's Park. Now, it isn't often these days to have a shared experience like the Deuce of August that spans continents and generations the way ours does. So many of the people who join us have been attending for so much of their life. I know for myself and my extended family, it's been a yearly retreat since childhood. To have something to participate in where the memories are rooted in celebrating and fellowship with our family and so very many friends is truly a tradition worthy of keeping alive. Now, I'm proud to be one of the local young-ish members of this community who get to help make the Deuce happen these days. I do it so that my own children will have something to come home to celebrate, so that they can share memories of candy catching at the parade, cheering at the tractor pull, and making sure that they get their yearly Wienerterta like I do. I want them to be able to share with their children about how Amma and Avi met right there at Byron's Bar one Deuce of August. So I encourage everyone watching here today, if you enjoy exploring your Icelandic heritage, if you enjoy the Deuce, if you go to the Deuce, then help the Deuce. We welcome you. We welcome your thoughts, your ideas, and your point of view. We'd love to have you on board, continuing to grow our events into this next generation. So please don't hesitate to reach out and email us through the website, thedeuce.org, or our Facebook page.
Once again, Curtis Olofsson, President of the Icelandic Communities Association, to bring our presentation to a close today. This presentation has covered so many preservation efforts, events, and activities in our community, but there is more. In 1999, for the 100th anniversary celebration, we hosted the former president of Iceland, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, which prompted a trip to Iceland to stage 3 performances of the play in the wake of the storm by a tour group of about 30 people, including actors and support people. In 2017, the local community members, the Icelandic Communities Association and Icelandic Roots, teamed together to help create a replica of the Cowan Monument in Iceland. A book is in the works by Jón Hjaltason with help from area historians. Our community has helped with many projects in Iceland, Canada, and the USA, working with the INLUS, the Lörgberg Heimskringla, festivals, conventions, and more. The North Dakota building at the Vesturfara Setrið Hafsós Immigration Center is another example of our community outreach. We have hosted 5 sitting prime ministers of Iceland, multiple cabinet ministers, and multiple ambassadors, and thousands of citizens from Iceland in tour groups at our annual celebrations. We continue to keep our rich and unique Icelandic history, heritage, and culture alive and well, not only for our generation, but also for future generations. Our annual Thorabloat is always a sellout and a huge success and raises significant funding for local heritage site grants to preserve sites of historical importance related to Icelandic heritage and history, and for Snorri's program scholarships. Our annual Deuce of August Icelandic celebration is now in its 121st year and has been confirmed by the North Dakota Tourism Department as the longest running ethnic festival in North Dakota. And we lay claim to being the largest Icelandic ethnic event in the United States. We continue to preserve our Icelandic story and keep connections strong with our friends in Iceland, Canada, and the USA. Let us know if you are coming for a visit. Keep an eye on our website and Facebook pages for photos, history, events, and more. In closing, on behalf of the Icelandic Communities Association, I would like to thank the Icelandic National League of the United States and Icelandic Roots for their technical assistance in producing this webinar. And most of all, we thank every one of you for joining us from far and wide. We hope and pray that by next year, we will return to staging a normal celebration, and that all of us will once again say, Vad så glatt som góðra vinna fundur? What is as joyful as a gathering of good friends? Takk fyrir komuna.